Mother's Day's just around the corner, and while brunches are being booked and trips are being planned, there's a lot of us who won't be able to make it to celebrate with Mom. With 1-800-Flowers.com, distance doesn't mean anything because you can still brighten her day with a beautiful bouquet. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers is giving you an exclusive 24 for 24 offer. 24 multicolored roses for $24. That's only $1 a rose. With a bright and beautiful mix of premium roses in a rainbow of colors, these blooms are guaranteed to show Mom just how much she's loved. Multicolored roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life. Wife, aunt, sister, grandma. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak from premier farms and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 24 multicolored roses for only $24. It's an amazing offer, but you gotta hurry because it expires today. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what Mom would want you to do. To order 24 stunning multicolored roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Adnan Virk is back. That's right. I'm in for Trey. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. You know I love Mike Jr., but today it's actually a good day to only have one Golic because I couldn't take the browbeating the two of you would give me together. But, hey, the series isn't over. The Raptors may
don't even.
No, I'm kidding.
Stop it.
I can't even say it with a straight face. It's over. It's done. And so I brought my We the North jersey, which I had yesterday. You can desecrate this however you want to. If you want to write We the Northeast Ohio.
I think that's what I want to do. It's We the North, a huge, on a like a black baseball jersey. It says We the North. I'm going to take it and put We the North, and then under it put East Ohio.
We the North, and it's done.
Because,
I mean, it's total capitulation, and even you, as a Cleveland fan, was like, "Oh, the Raptors will probably win." Cleveland got their one on the road.
Yeah.
Toronto's going to get their game too. We're all good, and that third quarter, absolutely bananas.
I was two things last night as that game was going on. Again, just a godsend. It started at 6 Eastern. It was fantastic. Yeah. I'd never thought so much about a guy I was going to do a show with the next day than you. And wondering how you were as we just watched the lava flow out of a volcano, the meltdown that was going on. And number two, how it had to look in Toronto with everybody walking around with throw up all over their shirts, just on what they were seeing last night. It was unbelievable. It was I thought for sure Toronto was going to get that split,
right.
But. Again, this is a whole part, and we'll get into a part of being in somebody's head when it starts to go bad, how it just absolutely snowballs. And you just had the lost glaze look in the eyes of Toronto as they tried to make a run, and then there'd be another fadeaway by LeBron, another fadeaway by LeBron, and just absolutely hammered them shut. Unbelievable how that game went. It did surprise me. I did not think Cleveland would dominate that much in that game.
I'm glad that I was in your head as well last night.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what kind of punishment I'm going to get today. Are we playing bad Canadian music? I mean, are we going to, I don't know what kind of tricks of the trade we have here.
I told them, empty everything out.
Vault. All right.
Empty the vault.
Listen,
on anything Canadian. Empty it out today.
This is truly a blame Canada day.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's your guys' fault for everything. Everything.
Well, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Hey, basketball season's over. It's baseball season. I got my Jays jersey on now.
Yeah.
So the Straight Talk is Let's Talk Baseball. Have Buster Olney with us an hour from now.
Unbelievable. For those, listening on radio, when you see Adnan at some point, if you do, he does. He has his Jays blue
and
baseball jersey on right now.
There's a team that understands how to take one of two from Cleveland. Won the first game of the doubleheader yesterday against the Indians. And then Cleveland won game
How quickly you've moved on to game 20 of the baseball, or whatever game we're in of the baseball season.
Listen, man, I make quick hard turns if I need to.
Oh, I bet everybody in Toronto is. It's, oh, God, we may not be back here.
That was Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE network.
Brett, do you have a comment on the jersey?
I was just curious, Adnan, did you make that jersey out of the white flag that the Raptors were waving last
night? Oh, wow.
There's some remnants of white flag around my house, total surrender. I said, all right,
wow.
I can make something out of this. Yeah. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah. Hey, that's a good Canadian song from Bieber, all right?
Canadian music all day today. You be the judge.
Exactly. Let us know if it's good or bad. Bare Naked Ladies next hour.
It's time for
Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
So LeBron James was incredible last night. 43 points and 14 assists as the Cavs with a beatdown of the Raptors, 128-110. They're up 2-0. And Kevin Love, by the way, yesterday Mike Jr. and I were saying, well, who else is going to be the supporting cast? Yeah. Love played his best game of the playoffs, 31 points and 11 rebounds. And this is where it gets bananas. Honestly, if anybody thinks, well, Toronto still has a chance, I don't know. LeBron's teams have won all 21 best-of-7 series when they won the first two games. And here's the big thing. If I told you today, Mike, the Cavaliers are going to win, LeBron's going to play great, you're like, all right, that happens.
Yeah.
But if I said to you fadeaways, you'd go, really? That's the shocker, how good his fadeaway was. 7 fadeaways. It was unstoppable.
For those that didn't see the game and are going to watch highlights of the game, you saw in the first half, LeBron was getting everything in the paint. He was driving the lane. He was doing everything going to the basket, which you certainly expect from LeBron. And the book had been, let him shoot the jumpers. Because of his game, that's going to be the weakest part. Except last night it was free throws. If you're going to start nitpicking at his game, ever since they called him for the lane violation of stepping over the lane in his free throws when he had made 21 or 22 in a row, it's been struggle a little bit. He was 4 of 8 last night. But this is where I start in picking on LeBron in part of his game. But in the second half, the 7 fadeaways, it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Of the fadeaways that were hitting nothing but the bottom of that. You want to just talk about dagger, 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 dagger. In a game where the Raptors had the lead at halftime, by 4 in this one in the third quarter, Cleveland absolutely just blew them out of the water, outscored them 37-24 in that one. You still waited for Toronto to try and make that run. And to their credit, they were giving it a shot, but I don't know how much you can handle being shell-shocked the way they were, because you could just see it start to roll on them and the desperation that was coming across.
I was already concerned, Mike, when I saw the Raptors shot 60% in the first half and were only leading by 2 points.
Yep.
When you play that well, they were immeasurably better from 3 than the Cavs as well, and you go, you're only winning by 2?
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Man, that's not a good sign. All of a sudden, early run by the Cavs, they never looked back. And part of this, which is fascinating, is that the shots were contested. 26 of 28 shots by LeBron were contested. Honestly, the Raptors, they just had no answer.
Off the top.
Boston Celtics are racing a 22-point second-quarter deficit. That's right. They were down by 22. This is a team that's undermanned, big-time injuries. They're against Cliff Sixers, who do an awful lot of talking for a team that's won one round. 108-103 to take a 2-0 lead, their second-round playoff series. 6 Celtics score in double figures, including Jaylen Brown, who scored 13 points off the bench in his return from a hamstring injury. And you want to pummel somebody, we're going to hammer the Raptors, but let's hammer Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Prohibitive favorite, rookie of the year. 0 of 4 shooting, 1 point in 31 minutes of action.
He only took 4 shots, scored 1 point, didn't want to shoot anymore, and this is obviously the weak part of his game that everybody knew. He's not a jump shooter,
right.
And everybody keeps saying, boy, when he gets that down, he is going to be unbelievable at his size, the way he handles the ball. When he becomes a jump shooter, well, it ain't yet, and it showed. Taking 4 shots, you could almost see in his eyes he didn't want to try a whole lot to do it because he wasn't hitting anything. It was ugly, but for this team, they got up 22. You know who wasn't feeling good about it? Sixer fans. It's the 5th time this year they've blown a 20-point lead.
Think about that.
5th time this year they have blown a 20-point lead, most by a team in a single season, regular season, and playoffs in the past 20 seasons. So they've been there, done that, and blew it. And I thought, this is what I thought last night, that they were going to come on, maybe not by 22 and just start putting it on the Celtics. Yeah. The Celtics run at the end of the half was just something to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the crowd going nuts, the players, it was unreal, the swing that took place from a 22-point lead to a 5-point lead at halftime, and then where that thing went. Maybe we keep talking about the 76ers are a team of the future, and they're saying, well, why not now? And the way they were playing, a lot of people were buying into it. Maybe we'll have to wait just a little while longer for them. We'll see. Again, Celtics did what they were supposed to at home, but they're doing it so undermanned, even though Brown was back last night from the hammy, so he was able to come and contribute for them, which he was able to do. He looked pretty good.
But look at
coming off
history.
The bench.
Celtics up 2-0 in 36 previous playoff series. They've won them all.
Oh, yeah. Done. I think this one's over. I think, and we're getting that rematch, which is an ugly matchup last year for the Celtics and the Cavs, but certainly a different story maybe this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Off the top.
Also, baseball news, Albert Pujols doubled in the second inning of the Angels' 12-3 win over the Orioles. That's the 2,999th hit of his career. He'll get his next chance to become the 32nd player of the 3,000 hit club in Seattle. as the Angels visit the Mariners this weekend. Albert is going to be one of the greatest right-handed hitters we've ever seen, and he's about to receive another great achievement.
That's the one thing we were wondering, could he get all two? Because now he's going to do it on the road in Seattle. Only one other person has done it at Safeco. That's Rafi Palmeiro. So there's only three. This was interesting to me. 3 stadiums that have had multiple people reach 3,000 hits at their ballpark. Wow. The Metrodome has had 3, Dave Winfield, Cal Ripken, Eddie Murray. Current Yankee Stadium, 2, Derek Jeter and A-Rod. And Angel Stadium, Rod Carew and George Brett. So if he gets it at Safeco, that would be the next. He and Rafi would be the 2 that would get it there. Another interesting thing, I see Ichiro is going to go to the front office for Seattle. Not playing anymore this year. He hasn't ruled out playing beyond here.
Next year,
But I thought it interesting, and I didn't know this. Ichiro and Pujols debuted and got their first career hit on the same day. Wow. April 2nd, 2001. Go ahead and use that one at the water cooler a little later. That is some great info. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. Ichiro and Fred Lynn, only guys who win Rookie of the Year and MVP their same year. I remember that 2001 season, how much hype there was on Ichiro, 262 hits. Guy's 44 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, when you combine the hits in Japan and Major League Baseball, which I don't think anyone should do, he's the all-time hit leader. But
just at Pete Rose, whether they should do that or not.
Right. He has an opinion on that.
Off the top.
Hockey news was great last night, especially if you're a Penguins fan. Jake Guentzel scored twice. Penguins won 3-1 to even their series against the Caps, 2 games apiece. Guentzel's really underrated on Pittsburgh.
Gosh.
He scored at least 10 goals in each of his 2 postseason appearances. Mario Lemieux, the only other player to score at least 10 goals in his first 2 playoff appearances. And we talked yesterday, Mike, is this a different year for Ovechkin and the Capitals? Yeah. Well, now it doesn't feel like it. Now it's 2-2. The pressure's on Washington again. They really needed that win to go up 3-1. Instead, the Penguins win 3-1, and now you've got a best of 3, and Pittsburgh's the defending Cup champions. How tight are the Capitals going to be tomorrow night?
Oh, my gosh.
It's a must-win.
Listen, it again, in the head of them, just like with the Raptors. We're talking about 2 teams where the other team is in their head.
Right.
And speaking of Ovechkin, snapped a streak of 4 straight games with a goal. He didn't take a shot. He didn't take a shot in last night's game.
Right.
Incredible. And then the Predators beat the Jets 2-1. Pekka Rinne was fantastic. 42nd career playoff win in goal. He stopped a puck with the butt of his stick.
Oh, it was amazing. And the first period.
That was an incredible stop by him, but big win for the Preds. So our buddy Jason Fitz is going to be very happy about that.
Huge.
And that series evened up 2-2 as well.
Yeah, Penguins, Predators, Jets has been a terrific series for all those watching. That's now best.
We're going to get game 7s, a few game 7s. It's going to be great.
Playoff hockey.
Off the top.
And also NFL news, big-time money for Matty Ice. Matt Ryan signing a 5-year extension with the Falcons based on contract terms reported by our own Chris Mortensen. Mort has it that Ryan will become the first player with a deal worth $100 million in guarantees and $30 million in average annual value. For a guy in his early 30s, obviously Atlanta's hoping he can still be awfully successful when he's 37 because they're giving him a ton of money. And not only for Matt Ryan, great news, but now Aaron Rodgers is sitting there thinking ka-ching.
Boy, talk about, oh my gosh, this, as we'll get into a little more, Aaron Rodgers just sitting there rubbing his hands together like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. Of the 4 major sports, football by far, the last to get that first $100 million guaranteed. First was the NBA back in 96 with Alonzo Mourning. Then in 98 in baseball, it was Kevin Brown with the Dodgers. And then in 2008, it was Alex Ovechkin with the Capitals. And now 10 years later, 2018, you get your first footballer with Matt Ryan. So congrats to him, a guy that he and Peyton Manning at this time. Ryan has over 41,700 yards. Only he and Peyton Manning are the 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to pass for 40,000 yards in their first 10 seasons. Got obviously a ton of fourth quarter game-winning drives. So guy got paid, man. Good for him. Good guy. Good, great family. Just had a couple twins, I believe it was. I mean, he's a good dude. So good, it's nice to see good things happen to good guys.
No question. Well said. We'll talk more about Matt Ryan's deal a little bit later on the show and the permutations for other quarterbacks in the NFL.
Off the top.
That was Off the Top. Adnan Virk in for Trey, where Golic and Wingo is presented by Progressive Insurance. Commercial insurance through Progressive protects your business and your dream. Choose from over 30 coverage options at progressivecommercial.com. LeBron toe. That's what they're calling it for good reason. Here's the records versus any opponent for LeBron in his career. Against the Cavs, he's 12-1, including the playoffs. Hornets, 46-6. The Raptors, 51-12. And in the playoffs, most notably, 10-2. Logic would dictate Cleveland just had to get 1 of 2 on the road in Toronto. The Raptors are the 1 seed. They're the better team. They've got the deeper bench, blah, blah, blah. Instead, LeBron seizes the moment and says, no, there's blood in the water. If I torch these guys tonight and we go up 2-0, the thing's over. And the jam is done. There's no doubt about it now. And the fadeaways were amazing. Apparently, Brian Windhorst was saying in his article that he was practicing all day at practice. Like it was already, here's in my bag of tricks, guys. Here's what I'm going to do tonight. The Raptors contested 26 of 28 shots, but OG Anunoby and company, defenseless against that.
Can't do anything.
If you're hitting
that.
a fadeaway like that, you got no chance.
Nothing that you can do if that shot's falling. And as I said earlier, I mean, that's a shot you're going to say, take it. We're going to let you have that one. We like that better than you drive into the hoop.
No question.
You know, and getting the and one,
right.
Which was going on in the first half.
Yeah.
So take the jumper. And then when he's doing that. But the question again, going into that game was, who's going to be the helper? Yeah. Who's going to be that guy? Because you look at game ones to game twos. You look at a guy like, Kevin Love. Well, we'll get to what he did. Sure. But Korver had 19 in game one. He had 5 last night. Tristan Thompson had 14 in game one. He only had 2 points last night. Who is going to be that guy? You know who's been the consistent guy? Outside of J.R. Smith, 20 points in game one, 15 last night. George Hill had only 4 in game one, had 13 last night. And then there's Kevin Love. Kevin Love, that looked like the Kevin Love of old, didn't it? Yeah. First game, 3 of 13, just 7 points, 31 points. Kevin Love has last night, over 50% shooting. So that looked like the 1-2 punch that Cleveland is obviously going to need to get where they want to be, and that's to win a championship, let alone even get to a championship first. But that was, again, the Kevin Love we have grown to know and love a little bit, and kept Tristan Thompson, who had been really good in the last 2 games, game 7 and game 1, on the bench more, only playing 15 minutes in this game.
NBA analyst Tim Legler on LeBron's sublime performance, 43 points and tying his playoff career high with those 14 assists.
It's one of the greatest individual displays of shot making I think I've seen, certainly in a really long time, because he made 8, I charted it, fadeaway jump shots in one half. It's unheard of. I mean, Michael Jordan at his best wasn't making 8 of those in a half. Kobe wasn't doing that. What LeBron did to this team was complete ownership. There's no other word for it. He owns the Toronto Raptors.
LeBronto.
Yeah.
Loved LeBronto.
Yeah, Mark Jones, by the way, the call was great with Hubie Brown as well. Jonesy, by the way, from Toronto, so he's taking shots here at his hometown. Everything we've seen is 7, by the way, but Leg said he did chart it. I mean, either way, the career high 7 fadeaways from Brett Parada, tied for the most by any player in a game in the last 15 seasons. This is very cool. In terms of signature moves, James Harden hit a run 2015, 6 of 6 on step backs against the Warriors in Game 4 of the 2015 Western Conference Finals. Tim Duncan made history, of course, always with the bank shot. Shaq's dunks, Russell Westbrook pull-up. But in terms of fadeaways, you keep thinking of fadeaways, you think of Jordan, you think of Dirk Nowitzki, you think of Kobe Bryant.
Right.
That's the rarefied air that LeBron was drinking last night.
And again, how many times will he pull us out of his bag of tricks? You know, It's the first time we've seen it this much and them fall the way they did. Can we count on that to be something that's going to be consistent? We'll see. I mean, time will tell. You know, he can get 40. He just gets 40 in different ways. I still come down to what the other players are going to do, but all you could do last night was just marvel. Every time he got the ball and he was just backing down, you're like, he's going to do it again. He's going to shoot another fadeaway. Can it possibly go again? And there it goes, bottom of the net. Incredible.
LeBron James was asked if he's in the Raptors' head.
I have no idea. I mean, for me and for our ball club, no matter who we're going against, we just try to be as great as we can be. No matter if it's the Indiana Pacers or the Toronto Raptors or whatever team we've played in the last 4 years, we just try to go out and just play as well as we can be. And our coaching staff has given us a great game plan. So I don't know. I mean, you guys can have that narrative on, how you guys feel about that, a mental edge or whatever the case may be. But for me personally, my mental edge is how I prepare myself every night, how I go about the game plan, trying to not make mistakes. And if I do make mistakes, making sure I don't do it again.
Listen, I've said it a bunch, and I can't tell you how real it is. The mental edge thing. It is a real thing. Because remember, while these are, in my eyes, the greatest athletes in the world, and these are professional athletes, they're not robots. They're still human beings. And when one team, and especially one guy, can torch you so much, it just gets to you. Right. It just slowly gets to you until, as I said, you get that glaze in your eye. You get that it doesn't matter what we do. And when we try and make a run, they're going to find a way. He's going to find a way to do more, whether it's fadeaways, whether it's driving the lane, whether it's kicking out, and now Kevin Love is having a game. There is a mental edge in sport. There just is. And it is so apparent here and dominant here that it is the big brother, little brother. We wondered this year, because there's that time There can be that time when the little brother, as he grows up, he gets that moment where all of a sudden he takes out the big brother, and everybody thought, as I said, Toronto's different this year. They're playing different. Man, looks anything but right now. It looks like just back to how it's always been. But I'll continue to say for Cleveland, not only in this series, but going forward, who's going to be that consistent guy? The two consistent guys in the two games have been J.R. Smith and Jeff Green. As far as 1 game to 2, 20-15 for J.R., 16-14 for Jeff Green, who had 4 of 6 last night from three-point land. If LeBron doesn't have that, they're not going to go much farther. And I know we're going to talk about LeBron and how great he is and what he did last night, and that's in his bag of tricks. And I get it. I understand all that. We should, because it was one of the great performances you're going to see, because you saw something where you thought you saw everything out of LeBron, but you didn't see 7 fadeaways.
Right.
But in then putting your feet back on the ground, you have to say, if you're a Cavalier fan or the Cavs themselves, okay, who's going to continue to be that consistent helper for LeBron through these playoffs?
Last thought on this game, Tim Legler on the Raptors looking like it's over.
They came up small at a time when you had to have a game to make this interesting and make Cleveland feel some pressure. When they let that slip away, I was curious to see what their mentality would be tonight. They come out to start the third quarter, and then Cleveland just takes control of the game, and they never relinquished it. And you did see just the defeatist mentality on the part of the Raptors, because they had absolutely no idea what they were supposed to do defensively. And at that point, it didn't matter anymore if DeRozan got going or Lowry or what they did offensively. They couldn't stop the Cavs, who almost had a 40-point third quarter.
You want to talk about momentum and what happens in a locker room? That Cleveland game, as you mentioned, Cleveland makes a run at the end of the first half. Raptors are shooting great in the first half. Yeah. It's only a 2-point game. What happens in the third quarter when the Raptors need it? The Cavaliers win that quarter 37-24. You go to the Celtics and 76ers. 76ers are crushing the Celtics, crushing them. Mm-hmm. Celtics make a great run at the end of the half. Now they're losing. Both Cleveland and the Celtics were losing at halftime. Celtics are losing by 5. Again, 76ers got to come out strong in that third quarter. They just gave up a big lead, get momentum back. Celtics win that third quarter 28-19. So they carry over going into the half, out of the half, into the third quarter, and it's ball game.
Golic
and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr.
Frank Isola, the New York Daily News, joining us right now on that Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So Fizdale's the guy, Frank. Why do you think management went in this direction?
Well, I think when you heard what they had said after the season, they were probably looking to hire maybe a younger coach who they felt could connect with today's players. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, Mike D'Antoni, Greg Popovich do a pretty good job of connecting with players, but I think they like the fact that David Fizdale comes from that Pat Riley, Miami Heat coaching tree. I think they like the fact that he does have relationships with some A-list players, including LeBron James. So I think the Knicks, instead of going for maybe a guy, a 50-year-old guy, 60-year-old guy, they decided to go with a 43-year-old guy who had some success in his first job. And I think that they believe in his second job will be a lot better.
Yeah, a guy who started out in the league when he got to the NBA back in 2003, was an assistant for the Warriors, then Atlanta, then Miami, before he became the head coach in Memphis. Frank, what do you think of this hire? Do you like it, don't like it?
My only thing is, I do think that Mike Budenholzer was probably more qualified just from this standpoint. If you 17 years as an assistant coach with Greg Popovich, had a very good run in Atlanta, very good at player development. So in terms of better candidate, I would think that Budenholzer would have been the guy. But Fizdale certainly has some qualities that you like. I mean, you look at his first year in Memphis, he did a good job there. I think the big thing for him is going to be that whole situation with him and Marc Gasol. And we've seen this before with coaches, especially in their first job. It didn't work out there. He and Gasol clashed a little bit. And I think if you read some of the comments from David Fizdale, I think he realizes that there are some things he needs to do better. I mean, come on, Mike, you know how it works in sports. Whenever there's a firing, yeah, there are some things that the team did wrong, but I think a lot of times coaches probably sit back and say, you know what could I have done better? And I think in the long run, David Fizdale will be better for it.
Frank Isola, the New York Daily News, and Around the Horn fame with us in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join, and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. We know why Knicks management now made the move. We know what Frank Isola thinks. But, Frank, how are the Knicks fans reacting to this, you think?
I think Knicks fans are pretty excited. I think Knicks fans always get excited when something new is happening. So I think a lot of people believe in David Fizdale. Like I said, he's 50-51 as a coach, and a lot of that had to do with last year going 7-12 when the team was kind of falling apart. But I think they're kind of excited of what he could bring. I think they like his energy. And I really do think a big thing is going to be when David Fizdale connects with Kristaps Porzingis. Now, he said he's going to get on a plane and go visit him in Europe. I think right now, actually, Porzingis is in Spain and not in Latvia. And I think that's important. You know, Jeff Hornacek didn't do that. Phil Jackson didn't do that. And that really needs to be part of it. And I kind of related it to when Pat Riley took over the Knicks back in 91. One of the first things that he had to do was kind of build trust and a relationship with Patrick Ewing, who you guys might remember, maybe don't remember. Patrick Ewing at the time kind of wanted to leave New York. He was unhappy with the direction of the franchise. And in a lot of ways, Porzingis is in the same place. So I think David Fizdale is going about it the right way. The first thing, any coach that knows what they're doing, the first thing they do is they connect with their players that are on the roster. And really the way to do it is to go visit them face-to-face. And I think that will say a lot if David Fizdale gets on a plane, flies to Europe, wherever that's going to be. Hopefully for him, it'll be in Rome. It'll even be better. But if it has to be in Latvia or Spain, good for him.
Well, we know things in New York get amplified and magnified to it should happen sooner. What is realistic in your mind for this team to be competitive? I'm not saying, go for a championship, but just to be competitive.
Well, I think it's funny. You look at what happened with the Indiana Pacers. Okay, they make a trade and they get Victor Oladipo and they get Sabonis. And everyone's thinking, well, they won't be any good because they lost Paul George. And then they become the 5th seed. And for a while there, it looked like they could be a top 4 seed. Now, do I think Porzingis is going to be back that soon? Probably not. That's kind of the big thing. But it takes 1 or 2 moves. Not every move has to be the biggest free agent out there, and it works. If you could make 1 or 2 good trades, like no one was falling over themselves when Kevin Pritchard made the trade for Victor Oladipo. So you can make 1 or 2 moves. Next thing you know, you get career years out of a couple of guys. And if the team is buying in and you're defending, why can't you be a playoff team? In the NBA, things could change pretty quickly. The one caveat, though, guys, is the idea with Porzingis, because the owner did mention a couple of weeks ago that there's a chance he could be out the whole season. So that could throw a monkey wrench into it. But if Porzingis comes back at a reasonable time, why can't the Knicks be one of the top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference?
Knicks since 2001 and 2002, 12 head coaches and 7 playoff wins. The math has not added up, but the math added up for LeBron James last night. Seriously, Frank, how sublime was that performance against the Raptors, particularly all those fadeaways?
Yeah, see, my thing, I always felt that Mike Golic was the legend of Cleveland, but now I'm starting to think that it's going to be LeBron James. You can make the case. I mean, it's not his greatest, but you can make the case that it's certainly up there as one of his greatest performances. It's just so, the thing that strikes me the most is, the guys that were in his draft class, I keep saying it, Darko's been on a farm. Darko Milicic has been on a farm now for 5 years. Dwayne Wade, who had a terrific playoff, 1 game against Philadelphia, he's talking about retirement, and Carmelo, not the same player, basically now needs to be a role player and needs to accept a bench role. So that's from the same draft class. Not only is this guy still going strong, he's the best player in the league, and he's dominating playoff games. He's an absolute freak of nature. I mean, I used to think, I was blessed to be able to go to these playoff games when Michael Jordan was playing. I feel the same way. When you get to see what LeBron James does, it's an absolute freak show. He's so good, so dominant, and now you're looking at it, you're thinking, and I felt this way coming into the playoffs. Yeah, could Cleveland, can they lose in the Eastern Conference playoffs? Perhaps they could. You have to beat him 4 times. No team in the East has been able to do that since he went to Miami at the start of the 2010-11 season, and I'm not so sure anybody could do it anymore.
Well, certainly it's been a remarkable one for LeBron James, and who knows, if they sweep the Raptors, nobody saw that coming, and certainly it's been rather unpredictable on the other side of things, with Boston up 2 over Philly. Frank, great stuff as always. Really appreciate the insight.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks. Keep up the good work, guys.
Thank you.
Golic
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
and Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
"Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?"
His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
A real thrill to talk to Eddie Olczyk, NBC Sports NHL analyst, and at this time of the year, reporter and handicapper for the Triple Crown.
Yes.
He'll be part of tomorrow's Kentucky Derby coverage at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC, immediately followed by the Penguins Capitals Game 5. It's all about the pucks and the ponies. Eddie O, thanks so much for coming on today, man.
Hey, guys, great to be with you.
Well done. The Penguins even up the series against the Caps last night. Eddie, I love Ovechkin. I just want him to get over the hump. I'm tired of people always taking shots at him, criticizing him. How come the Caps can't get over the hump? And I don't have a dog in the race. I'm not a Capitals fan. But you see that game last night and you go, all right, this is why the Penguins are the defending Cup champions. Now it's a best of 3, and I have very little faith that Washington can win this series. What did you make of the way Pittsburgh was able to snatch back momentum last night?
Well, I mean, it is a game of momentum. It is what do you do with it when you have it, and we've seen that in the last probably 10 years with the rule changes and the type of athlete now in the National Hockey League, and you go long stretches when you have that momentum. And the key is that when you get it, you got to do something with it, and when you don't have it, first off, you got to stop it and then get it on your side. What does that mean? Is that a big save? Is that a big hit? Is that somebody making a great play? And then when you get it, you got to take advantage of it. And I think at times in these playoffs, and in particular with this series, teams have had momentum. Maybe they haven't been able to take advantage. But look, I think for Washington in particular, what they did in round 1 after losing the first couple of games at home to the Columbus Blue Jackets, everybody thought they were done, me included, and they won 4 straight. And now they're in a best of 3, as you mentioned, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think there is a little bit something different with the Washington Capitals, but again, until they can get it done, everybody's going to question whether the grade 8 Alexander Ovechkin and the Capitals can finally beat the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Eddie, I've talked about this really in any sport where a team can own another team.
Yeah.
Not only physically on their field of play, but mentally as well. Is that something that's going on here?
Well, the numbers certainly bear that out, Mike. It's hard to argue because the Penguins have had their way with the Washington Capitals, and sometimes you just got to go out there and relax. And I think that's what the Capitals have done. I mean, it's been a hell of a series. I mean, it has been absolutely back and forth. It's had everything that you wanted. It's had incredible saves. It's had some great drama and theater. It's had a lot of nastiness, which we would expect between the Capitals and the Penguins. But sometimes, yeah, it does. I mean, I know, Mike, you would know this. I mean, there's doesn't matter maybe what kind of a streak that maybe individually we were going through when we played professional sports, but when you went up against a certain team, you just knew you were going to have a great game. Like that's just the way it is, and it happens with teams as well. And I think that until the Capitals can kind of get over that hump in the playoffs against the Penguins, everybody's going to have that question.
You're right. One team thinks we're going to do well, and the other team conversely thinks, what's going to happen that's going to take the wind out of our sails, and the Capitals are seeing that happen. As far as that series, you saw Tom Wilson got the 3-game suspensions, had a couple of hits in this series. What did you think about the 3 games? Too much, too little, or just right?
I thought it was just a little high. I think it definitely was a suspension without question. I probably would have went 2 games. May not seem like a whole heck of a lot, but a 3-game suspension in a 7-game series is obviously a lot. So you can't leave your feet. You can't target the head, and I think that's exactly what he did, and I think the league got it right.
Talking with Eddie Olczyk right now of NBC Sports. We'll get to the Kentucky Derby in just a second, but Predators' big win last night against the Jets. I love PK Subban. Nice to see him score, and they finally kept the Jets snipers at bay. Winnipeg's been an amazing story, Eddie. You know it firsthand. The crowds there have been unbelievable. They finally win a playoff series, and it'd be great to see a Canadian team get in there. But what's your read now on Nashville, Winnipeg? That's a best of 3.
Well, I mean, this series is going to, whoever comes out of it, you're going to feel like you played a 10-game series. Like, it is, you're going to have arms, legs, body parts all over the place in this series. I mean, it has been a physical series, and give Nashville a lot of credit. I mean, they defended extremely well. And let's go back to Game 3. People may not realize they had a 3-0 lead in Game 3 after the first period and ended up losing that game. Winnipeg ended up scoring, I think, 4 goals in the second period and eventually won a shootout there. But I just thought they defended much better. Pekka Rinne made some really good saves, and I thought where the difference was last night was their defensemen were very aggressive. They forced they force Winnipeg to defend a little bit more. And if Winnipeg has one weak spot, because they have everything, if they have one weak spot, it is, can they defend enough? And Nashville was able to take advantage of some opportunities and specialty teams, and that's a hell of a series. I mean, as far as marketing our game, it may not be the two biggest markets that we have in the National Hockey League, but when you just look at it, and it's incredible theater, and it's fast, it's heavy, it's hard, and it's for keeps, and that's what playoff hockey is all about.
And the great story this year has been the Golden Knights, what they've done in Vegas. San Jose is in Vegas tonight. That series tied 2-2. It's been such a wonderful story with the Vegas team. Is it going to end this round? Sharks seem to be giving them all they can handle.
Yeah, I thought it would go the distance, Mike. There's no question about it. And look, what they've been able to do in their first year of existence. I mean, look, if they're not the team of the year, I would be shocked in all of any sport, regardless professional sport. They play fast. They're entertaining. They have an experienced goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury, who is a member of 3 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's awesome to see, because I think there were a lot of people that thought that they were going to be bottom feeders, and next thing you know, they're sitting on top of their division, and they're only try to do the math real quick here. They get 6 wins. They're only 10 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup, which is just absolutely incredible, and it probably burns a few teams' rear ends that you have an expansion team that's only 10 wins away from the Stanley Cup.
I got the Sharks in 7, but we'll see. You're a big horse racing fan, Eddie. Justify. Bob Baffert trained horse, the favorite, sitting at 3-1. You agree with that?
He is the horse to beat. He is a man amongst boys when you look at him physically, and he's only raced 3 times. And people may not know this little nugget, but all the way back to 1882, every horse that has won the Kentucky Derby raced as a 2-year-old. Justify is not, so he's trying to break the curse of Apollo, who was the last horse that was not raced as a 2-year-old to win the Kentucky Derby. So there's a little bit of history there, but he just seems like the horse to beat. I mean, the races that he's run, the 3 have been super impressive. Now, he seems like the real deal and will be the real deal, but will he be tomorrow in front of 160,000 people here in Louisville? There's just so much that goes into it. Talking to Bob Baffert, he feels like this horse, really has the mindset to be able to handle everything, but he looks like an imposing figure. The 1.25 mile distance should not hurt him at all. Should have a little bit of pace in this race. It looks like it's going to be a nice day. We're kind of primed for a little bit of everything here tomorrow for the Run for the Roses, and I'm not going to play the favorite. I'm going to definitely use him. I think you'd be foolish not to use him in your top 3. I'm going to go to the inside of Justify, because Justify is a 7. I'm going to go with Good Magic is my pick. Trainer Chad Brown, he won the Bluegrass at Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky, at Keeneland about a month ago. I think he's sitting on a huge race. So all of my wagering aspects tomorrow afternoon will be based around the 6 and 7, but I think you definitely have to use the 7-horse Justify as the favorite.
How much you put into play that 5 slot, the 5th post, the lucky one, and that's Audible, which is backed by the audiobook company, kind of a fan favorite type of thing there. Do you buy into that that post, that spot where you're at?
Well, I think post position, Mike, certainly does play into it, depending on the type of style and Audible, the type of style that you run in a particular race. Audible is a horse that can be close to the lead or come from off the pace, like he did in the Florida Derby over a month ago. And Todd Pletcher, a terrific trainer, one of the best trainers that we have in the horse racing circuit. And believe it or not, he has 20% of the field. He has 4 horses of the 20 that are running, and he's a defending training champion last year with Always Dreaming, co-owned by Vinny Viola, the owner of the Florida Panthers in the National Hockey League. So Todd Pletcher trying to go back-to-back. So, yeah, I mean, I love the post position, without a doubt. But, again, it just depends on on your running style when it comes to the Run for the Roses in a 20-horse field.
All right, give me that wager. You talked about Good Magic in right inside to Justify. Good, at 8-1. I want to bet some of Adnan's money. So, but I want to go with bigger odds. I want to really get
is that a Canadian dollar, Adnan?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is that, what are we, loonies or toonies, or what are we betting?
Yeah, loonies and toonies. Well done.
That's a very good point. So give me a bigger odds on someone. Who's that horse that could surprise, that has the big odds where I could get that big return?
You know what? I think maybe the 10-horse My Boy Jack. I think a horse that if they go really fast early, Mike, as far as, speed-wise in the first 3/4 of a mile, My Boy Jack always seems to run, really hard, really tries, a horse that'll come from out of it. You probably won't hear the name My Boy Jack until Larry Colmus, our race call announcer, when he goes through the whole field. You might not hear My Boy Jack until maybe like the 14th or 15th horse, but he'll come running late at the end. Morning light odds are 30-1. I don't know if he'll be that high, but I think that might be a horse that could get into your trifectas or superfectas and maybe be able to pay. Now, if they go really fast early, well, then all bets are off, and you might be sitting on. You might not be at work on Monday, Mike, if you happen to hit with My Boy Jack on top.
It was a great run for Golic and Wingo. Golic's moving on. Eddie Olczyk will be part of tomorrow's Kentucky Derby coverage, 2:30 Eastern on NBC, immediately followed by the Penguins Capitals Game 5. Thanks so much, man. Always love you and Doc together in the booth, and have fun tomorrow.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks very much.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
Very interesting where that went.
Brian Windhorst in 15 minutes. Right now, we're putting your morality to the test. So, listen, we all like a little bit more money.
Wow. This is unreal, isn't it?
And so this was, as they say, a movie scene. Cinephile. State police say drivers clamoring to pick up cash on an interstate in Indianapolis. The back doors of a Brinks armored truck swung open. Hundreds of thousands of dollars flew out. Troopers at the scene, ready for the amount? $600,000 had flown across the interstate. Police later said the exact amount was not known. But all right, it's over $500,000.
So here we go. This is the question. People were jumping over fences from adjacent neighborhoods, stuffing their pockets with money. Drivers were stopping, getting out of their cars, scooping up the cash. The police said anyone who picked up the money and keeps it could be charged with theft and urged them to contact state police to return it. So here's your morality question. The money's flying around. You keeping it? You know exactly where it came from. It's not like you're walking down the street and there's $1 on the ground. You have no idea where it came from. And you say, okay, finders keepers. This was flying out of a Brinks truck. You see it flying everywhere. Yeah. You're grabbing it and stuffing it in your pocket. You keeping it. Are you keeping it? You're turning it in. Are you afraid you'll get caught? What are you thinking there? So you can tweet it at Golic and Wingo. We have a number. You can leave a message as well on what you would do. 860-506-5505. That's 860-506-5505. You can leave a message about any of the topics we're talking about. But where's your morality here? Would you keep it? Would you have not feel any remorse at all for taking that money and just keeping it, or would you give it back?
The key here, Mike, is the amount. If it's like a bag of money, like I'm just like Santa Claus and I'm just ransacking $100,000, I think it's a little excessive. But if this is money flying all over the place, 100 here, 100 there, 100 there, you keep it.
Do you think they will really? Because one thing we know, cameras are everywhere. Now, I know this is a highway, but who knows where cameras are, okay?
Right. Yeah.
Would you at all be afraid that you'd get caught on camera? And do you think they'll really go after people if they find out who took any of the money?
Again, it's the amount. If you're just grabbing loose change, so to speak, which in this case could be $500-$600, but it's all $100, they're not going to prosecute you. If you are willfully taking hundreds of thousands of dollars, yes, then there's cameras everywhere.
If you went as far as grabbing money out of the air and then running in the back of the Brinks truck and taking out a few more bags,
pointing and winking at the camera as you did it, that
may have crossed the line. So I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Would you take that? Because again, people were jumping over fences from the neighborhood,
free money,
stopping in their cars and getting out and grabbing and not grabbing the money to collect it for the Brinks cars and giving it back, putting it in their pockets and keeping it. Would you keep that money or would you give it back?
Parada, would you keep it or not?
I would 100% keep it.
Yeah. Anybody in the back? Devin, Cliff, Dan, anybody keeping it?
I'm a good citizen, so I'm giving everything back.
You are, Cliff.
Oh, that's right. With the
Cliff's
driving,
keeping it 100%.
Devin, you're keeping. That's not shocking. Stanza?
Of course, I'm keeping it.
Of course, you're keeping it. Hey,
so we have one person right now.
Cliff is the moral compass.
Giving it back.
You're keeping it, right, Mike?
I'm pretty sure I'm keeping it.
I didn't feel the urge to ask him. Like, I think I know where you're going.
Kind of a game time decision, but I think I'd have to kind of look at the area and see what's going on.
The situation, yeah.
Cliff,
it's $100. It's your money. $100. Go out for dinner.
All right, guys, we got about 10 seconds, but yes, I'm a good guy, so I'd like to get the money back. No dinners, no favors for anyone.
Listen, you're off the show.
I want to practice money laundering.
That's unbelievable.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider who saw LeBron's greatness on full display last night. Windy, read your column today. Excellent work as always. And I like the fact you pointed out LeBron was working on that fadeaway at practice. He knew instinctively, I'm going to need this. He saw the way the Raptors were defending him and leaving space, and then he went out and just crushed Toronto's will last night.
Yeah, although I sort of feel like there was a certain point where LeBron was like, I wonder how crazy I can get with this. I wonder if I shoot the ball 18 feet in the air, if it'll go in. I wonder if I turn to my left, it'll go in. I wonder if it'll turn to my right, it will go in. He was just completely having fun with them. And look, there's going to be certain nights where LeBron's just going to throw in shots and you're just going to have to shake your head and, give it to him. But this was extreme. Not only did he have a 43-point game, which, look, the guy has already got 4 40-point games in the playoffs. He tied his career high with 14 assists. I mean, he, frankly, felt like he was on vacation against the Raptors, especially after a series against the Pacers where everything the Cavs did was hard. The Raptors are making the Cavs feel very, very comfortable right now.
So you've seen this guy play from his high school days, obviously, to now. Have you seen anything like that shooting last night from him in all those years?
Mike, frankly, with all due respect, I don't think that game really qualified much for LeBron because the Raptors made it so easy for him. He didn't really have to work that hard. He had just an unconscious night, but the Raptors didn't do anything to make him feel him or anything. I mean, at halftime of the game, the Raptors were shooting 60%. They were on their home court in a game that should be pretty close to a desperation game. And the Cavs were down 2 points. LeBron was like, oh, this is how they're going to play me. They're going to just let us do whatever we want and move and go wherever we want without even any little bit of resistance. Okay, fine. We'll just play this way. And, also LeBron, he had gotten some rest. He was so tired on Monday night in that overtime. He just could barely move. And the last 2 days, he really, tried to go to sleep. He went to bed at 10 o'clock on Wednesday night. There were Donovan Mitchell has that incredible dunk, and the Jazz are having this great win down in Houston, and his friends are texting him, and there's no reply because he's sleeping at 10 p.m. and he got 9 hours of sleep, and he had all these massages, and he doing all this ice. And even yesterday in the morning, he looked like he was taller than me. He might have grown a half inch just from resting, I feel like. And so the result was a rested LeBron, who was very confident because he owns that building. I mean, the Cavs have won 5 straight playoff games in Toronto. Playoff games in Toronto, 5. That's crazy. He's comfortable there. He doesn't care about any adversity. And he was rested, and he just, took it to the Raptors like it was nothing.
Toronto had not lost back-to-back home games all season, and now the series feels effectively over. Talking to Brian Windhorst right now on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Any chance for Toronto? Obviously, it's desperation time, and it feels like now it's a greater chance of a sweep, Windy, than a 6 or 7 game series. But what on earth can Dwayne Casey do to shake things up?
Well, the first thing he's got to do is somebody's got to put an arm bar in somebody's back. Somebody's got to commit a foul. I mean, the Indiana Pacers have to be at home just slapping their foreheads going, we'd be up 2-0-2 because the Indiana Pacers gave the Cavs so much more physical play. And that's where they got to start. They cannot let the Cavs skip up and down the court like they were. But I will say this, this Cavs team, they are not a consistent team. They have been inconsistent all year long. Now, they have had moments where they've had incredibly hot 2-week stretches. And maybe we're at the start of one, and maybe this is the Cavs about to flex their muscles and show why a lot of people assumed that they would just be back in the finals no matter what. And maybe they'll tear through this series and they'll just wait for whoever wins Boston, Philly, and go to work on them. But the only thing I'd say to the Raptors is this is not the same Cavs team as it's been the last 3 years. So, you can get back in the series, but not playing with a lack of fight that they played with last night. More than anything, is as awesome as LeBron was, and it was a joy to watch him play that way, I was flabbergasted at the absolute lack of fight for this Raptors team, which has spent 12 months working to get back in this situation, to get home court, to establish a great home court, to defend it. They didn't defend it, my God.
Brian Windhorst joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I want to get to that consistency thing in a second, but here in the first two games, LeBron James, forgetting the points, has 27 assists and just 3 turnovers. Now, where he is struggling, ever since they called him for a lane violation for stepping over the line before the ball hits the rim, in the 2 games, he's 5 of 14. He better be careful, he's going to get benched from the free throw shooting. Going to the consistency part of it now. Brian, is we've seen inconsistency, obviously, with the other players. Hill gets 4 points in the first game, 13 in the second. Love, 7 points and 31. The only consistent one in both games has been J.R. Smith and Jeff Green. How much of a concern is that for you going forward? Forgetting this series, because we all think it's over, but going forward is the consistency of the teammates.
Well, that just shows you how crazy the playoffs are in general, because LeBron made 25 straight free throws the last round. And now he's all of a sudden off calibration, and he's missed 9 in 2 games. And by the way, last night, guys, he was annoyed that he fumbled the ball out of bounds and had a turnover. He was mentioning as he was leaving the press conference that he should have had a turnover-free game, but he just wasn't that anybody stole the ball from him. He had an unforced error. So that just tells you where they are there. But so here's what I'd circle with the Cavs. They still, despite everything that happened last night, they still gave up 54% shooting, and the Raptors scored 62 points in the paint. Okay, they are not a good defensive team, and one of the things that Ty Lue has just decided is that, okay, we're not good defensively, we're just going to put out our best offensive team and we're going to outscore you. That's why Tristan Thompson isn't in any of these game plans until it's like break the glass time, because Tristan Thompson isn't a great offensive player. And basically, Ty Lue's like, we're just going to outscore you. And that's why, like yesterday at half, when the Raptors are shooting 60% and the Cavs are right on their heels, like, this is fine. We'll score with you all night. The Cavs are a top 3 offensive team. They're a bottom 3 defensive team. So where they cut into problems is when they absolutely have to get stops. They haven't demonstrated that against an elite level offense that they can absolutely get stops. And I do think that that's eventually going to come up against a team where that's going to be too much for them to overcome. And that's one of the reasons why they're inconsistent, because they're not good defensively. They're not the same team they were 2 years ago. When they won the title, Game 7, 2016, the Warriors scored 89 points that night. The final score was 93-89. I don't think this team is capable of holding the Warriors to 89 points in a game, maybe not even in 3 quarters. And so that's really the difference in why this team isn't quite where they were a few years ago.
Dr. Brian Windhorst right now on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We transition from the Raptors debacle to Phillies. For a team that's been terrible for a long time and won 1 playoff series, they're an awfully mouthy bunch, Windy. Last night, Ben Simmons took 4 shots and didn't get a point. It got 1 point. How does that happen?
Well, so Brad Stevens is decided that the most important thing in this series is to keep the ball out of Ben Simmons' hands, to force the ball out of his hands, and to keep him from being a playmaker. And if that means that Joel Embiid has a 40-point game and he yaps and talks on Instagram and everything, Brad is fine with it. And in fact, after Embiid had a great Game 1 and the Sixers lost and Embiid was sort of running his mouth, I'm sure Brad was like, go for it. Hey, you're right. We will never stop you. Try for 50, because when the ball's in Embiid's hands, it's not in their best playmakers' hands. And they've thrown some things at Simmons that he's never seen before. For example, sometimes they just want the ball out of his hands, and even if there's not a screen, they just go double team him. Sometimes they get like the 15 on the clock, and they're like, we don't want Ben Simmons to do anything in this possession, so we're going to go double team him and make him give up the ball. And if Brad Stevens was speaking 100% honestly to you, he would probably say, look, we may not be able to pull this stuff against this guy a year from now. Maybe we won't even be able to pull this stuff against this guy in Game 5 or Game 6. But we're going to throw stuff he's never seen before, and we're going to take advantage of him being young and innocent and not knowing how to handle this adversity. That's, in a way, and I know this is hard to see, and everybody wants to make fun of Ben Simmons because he only had 1 point and Rookie of the Year. what's really happening is Brad Stevens is paying him an incredible compliment. That no matter what's happening on that roster, that he sees Ben Simmons as the real threat and the heart of that team, and they're throwing a LeBron-esque game plan at trying to deal with him. And I do believe he'll get over it. The question is now whether he'll figure it out and whether Brett Brown can help him figure it out in time to win this series.
All right, Brian, after the Knicks had 637 interviews, they decide on David Fizdale. And so from your side of it, why will this work or why won't this work?
Well, first off, Fizdale was the most in-demand coach out there. He could have had the Suns job. He probably could have had the Orlando job or the Atlanta job or the Charlotte job if he really wanted them. Milwaukee was lining up to interview him as well. Milwaukee was very interested in him. So this wasn't so much that the Knicks selected Fizdale. This was Fizdale selecting the Knicks. And the reason why he is in demand is because he comes from a system in Miami where he learned a culture and an incredible coaching technique from Eric Spoelstra. I would call Eric Spoelstra the mechanic, the way he gets in there and fine-tunes and changes things and sets a tone for his organization. And David Fizdale was there for all of that. And I was there every day for 4 years with David Fizdale when those Heat teams were great, and Fizdale won the respect of so many players. And so not only is he a guy who relates to players, but he also has been taught the technical side of the game. And to be able to find a coach who is technically intelligent and knows how to set a culture but also can relate to players is valuable. And that's what the Knicks ultimately really wanted. That said, there is a bit of a gamble here because Fizdale is still a young head coach, and he hasn't proven at the highest level. A lot of people felt like he got a raw deal in Memphis, but part of what happened was for being a player's coach, he couldn't connect with his star player. And Marc Gasol, and he went sideways, and he got fired. And if he goes sideways with the star in New York, that's going to be a problem. So it's a good hire because it's kind of like winning a sweepstakes for the Knicks. But he hasn't been a guy who's proven he can do it yet, and there's some uncertainty because of it.
One last fun one for you here, Wendy. The NBA warning Drake about his language. Do players actually like hanging with Drake before, during, after the game?
They talk to him all the time. They probably text him and stuff. But if you are, this year for some reason, and I'm sure it's because stuff's happened recently, every courtside fan gets a placard on their seat. And it's kind of a little bit of a Valentine at first. They're like, oh, you're a very important fan for us, and thank you for your business. But, hey, you've got to have some decorum here, and if you don't, we don't care how much you pay for the seats, we're going to throw you out. And so I think it was the NBA warning Drake as a front-row fan, hey, don't yell at players and curse at players and come towards the court, more than it was warning him as the Raptors' global ambassador or whatever. I will point out, though, that Drake once got fined $25,000 for tampering with Kevin Durant during a concert when Durant was going to be a free agent, and they said the Raptors, he was out of line. So I also think that the league likes to have a little playful back and forth because they know that it gets people like you guys interested in it, and it's fun. And I think that's one of the things that happened here.
Great stuff as always from Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA Insider. Appreciate the insight. Safe travels, my man.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.